I'm Billy Tucker. I'm the CEO and Executive Director of Bionic. Bionic is the leading provider of IoT services to airports and big retail. So by IoT, I mean the devices that collect data, and in our case on people movement, so passenger, visitor, shopper. I think the easiest example is when you think in the context of an airport. So airports, more people are traveling than ever. And in fact, in any 10-year period, the number of passengers doubles. Typically. And so airport infrastructure isn't growing that quickly. And that means that for the same amount of infrastructure, airports typically need to cope with double the passengers. And it means they've got to get more and more efficient. And so our business is all about helping airports become more efficient, to identify queuing strategies that make more sense for the space, to make changes on the fly, so dynamic queuing such that when a queue starts to form, we can predict inbound airlines, what happened this time last year, how the weather is affecting queuer behaviour. And we use all of those insights and we bring it all together into big dashboards for businesses and provide them with alerts to say, go do something, open a new desk, queues are starting to form. So in particular in airports, if you think about the balance between the customer experience and the cost to serve. So if the number of passengers is increasing, which it is, and therefore the customer experience would tend to go down because queues get longer, you increase the number of people who are there to attend, to operate, and as a result the cost to serve goes up. Now if you're an airport, big queues are bad because it affects the customer experience, but no queues are terrible because it dramatically increases the cost to serve. And it becomes a really unprofitable business managing big groups of people. So it's really about balancing those two things, and that's where Bionic comes in. For instance, if you're the owner of a very large shopping property, so a shopping mall, then you want to really understand, how do customers go from one precinct to another? So how much time do they spend in the fashion precinct or in the food precinct? And how do they get from A to B? And really helping customers figure out, or shoppers figure out, which is the best way to go from one place to another. And then to help the retailers understand the amount of foot traffic that they've got access to, how to merchandise for that foot traffic. And in the event that a retailer isn't performing as well as expected, it's really useful for a retail property owner to be able to say, well, here's how much foot traffic you've got access to. This might be a merchandising problem. So that's just one example of how the technology works. Now we're in over 80 airports around the world, and some of the largest, including Heathrow Airport, Narita, JFK, and Newark in New York. New York, and New York in particular, are interested in a couple of things. Curbside congestion is a big problem for them, meaning all these Ubers arrive oftentimes in a very short window. They create a lot of congestion. That congestion can affect other terminals, can even affect the turnpike. So it causes big bottlenecks. Bottlenecks are bad. That causes people to be late for flights. Late flights means big fees for airlines, and airlines don't love it. So they want to understand the movement of cars curbside and our technology. So we use laser technology that identifies cars and their movement, including things like dwell time. And we can help them signpost better to Uber. We can help them real-time send people out to operate curbside with big orange wands to tell people to move on. And by doing so, we improve the experience, we reduce lateness, and we reduce also the cost to serve. So that's one example. Same airport, but inside, they're really interested in figuring out, what if there's a piece of lost luggage? How do we know, and how do we react? And what we've been able to do through AI is take their camera feeds, their existing camera feeds, identify a suitcase that's no longer associated with a person. Now, that sounds simple, but it's actually not. You've got to figure out, there are a lot of suitcases in the environment, and there's a lot of people too. And you're trying to find disassociated suitcases, and so you rely on machine learning or AI to figure that out. So that's what our technology can do. If you own a very large property group like a Westfield or a Dexus or a Landsec, then you really want to build a relationship with your customer's customer. So your customer is the retailer, their customer is the shopper. Often your relationship with the shopper is largely through the car park. But what we help do is bridge that data gap such that you can build a direct relationship with the shopper through Guest Wi-Fi. It's a product that we offer. But also you can see people movement throughout your shopping centre, and that really helps the shopping mall owner set rent with retail that's otherwise very difficult to do, because you can do that very reliably and it's very data driven, so highly provable, and so you can go back to your retailers regardless of how they're performing, and you can use that shopper flow data to set rent at retail, which is really useful. We're also the only business that can help retailers operate more effectively in an airport context as well as in a shopping mall. We work directly with folks like New Balance to help them identify store level performance. So that's really a lot like an online type analytics experience, think of Google Analytics, but in a physical space. And if we can bring that to bear across the many thousands of retailers that are interested in that type of insight, then that's a pretty valuable space for us. So I see tons of opportunity in our existing customer base. I see tons of opportunity just taking our technology to adjacent opportunities like retail brands. Our team is great. We've got great IP, good support, and I'm incredibly optimistic.